Hey guys, it's Jane. It's Friday today, so I'm here for Friday Reads. Pretty much everything I've got to talk to you about today that I finished as part of Book Buddy-a-thon, which finished up on Sunday, so clearly I haven't managed to get a lot of reading done during the week this week, but once I've talked through the books that I've read, I'll explain why and why we're up here in this delightful room. But anyway, Book Buddy-a-thon. I mentioned Felicia Day last Friday, so I won't go into that again. The other four that I finished were the Virginia Woolf, Killing the Angel in the House. This is a short collection of essays, quite disparate, interesting from a historical point of view. There's one exchange of letters written for publication. It was letters to the editor, which is probably the most interesting part of this. Virginia writes in after something's published in the paper, which basically implies that women are intellectually inferior to men, and she writes back, and then the author of the piece replies, and there's a number of back and forths that are collected together in here, and that the tone of that and the kinds of arguments that are used on both sides was really interesting. So even for just that piece, this one's quite an interesting read. Alanna, The First Adventure by Tamora Pierce. This is my first ever Tamora Pierce. This is a really fun read. So it's a middle grade fantasy. Alanna is a sister of a pair of twins. Alanna's being sent to the convent to be taught to be a lady. She doesn't want that. Her brother Tom is being sent to the castle to learn to be a knight. He doesn't want that either. So they had to plan and swap places, and she pretends to be a boy and goes to the castle, and he's going to the convent where not only do they train ladies, they also train magicians. So he's going to learn to be a magician, and hijinks ensue, basically. This is the first of a trilogy, and I'm definitely going to be looking out the next ones of these. I also finished this one, The Daggers Path by Glenda Larke. This is the second in a series. I read the first one during Booktubeathon. It's difficult to tell you too much about the plot because it's the second in a series and you don't want to give away spoilers. The world is really interesting in this. They've got a really interesting magic system. It's not just a single note. There's a number of different types of magic, and how they interact and what they mean is contested. As you can see, there's like the big ship here. There's a lot of traveling around in these stories, and we meet characters from different cultures in this world who all have different points of view about what magic is and the spiritual realm behind the magic. And there's action and adventure, and it's really fun. I was recommended to look at these by Catherine from the Android's Conundrum, who has impeccable taste in books. So if you're at all interested, the first one's called The Lasker's Dagger, and I can highly recommend these books. The final one of the 5 for Book Buddy-a-thon was Regulation 19 by P.T. Hylton, and this is also a really fun read. It's science fiction, I think that's probably what you'd say. It's sort of set in the near future, America, in a particular town. And there's kind of somewhere between a Doctor Who and a supernatural vibe going on. Something really strange has happened in that town. As the story progresses, you kind of learn a bit more. It also has a nice kind of it feels a little bit like a homage to Neil Gaiman, because our central character at the beginning is in prison and then is released from prison, and he comes back to his hometown and discovers everything is weird and strange. But it really reminded me of the opening of American Gods, which I really appreciated. Again, I feel like I can't tell you much about the plot because a lot of the enjoyment of that book is trying to work out what's actually going on. But yeah, it was a really good read. This week I've mostly been reading this one, Maos' Last Dancer. It's an autobiography. I'm nearly finished. I'm reading this for my In Real Life book club, and thankfully our meeting was moved from last Tuesday to next Tuesday, so I probably am going to be able to pull this off. this was really quite a distressing read at points. The central character, Lee, is selected at the age of 11 to become part of Madame Mao's dance academy in Beijing and taken away from his family, which is kind of a truly bittersweet thing because his family are living in pretty extreme poverty in a new commune. They're peasants, and he's one of 7 sons in a family who live in a 2-bedroom house, hovel. And then he gets taken to Beijing and put through this extreme training, and he has great potential and is selected for an exchange to the Houston Dance Academy. And then when he gets to the West, he gets a taste of freedom for pretty much the first time in his life and likes what he finds. So it's an interesting story. As I said, parts of it were quite difficult to read. When I finish it, I might do a full review of this one because there's a lot of meat in it. I've also been reading a cozy crime mystery called Staged Death by Karen Rose Smith, which is almost completely brain dead, but sort of enjoyable. Most of the week I haven't been reading. Most of the week I have been working on clearing out this room. We've had painters all week doing the outside of the house, repainting the trim because it really, really needed it. The weather was getting through. But we decided we would finally, after being in this house for 8 years, finally get this front area repainted. You can't see, but it's actually quite a tall ceiling. So we thought it would be sensible to actually have professionals do it rather than us trying to clamber around on ladders and all the same. But it means that we've had to, we're probably 80% of the way through that. We're clearing this room, which includes 5 full bookcases and 2 half bookcases. And I've had hand carrying everything basically out of this room into the garage. And it's been a long week with a lot of dust, basically, but we are getting close. And next Monday they're coming and they're painting, and then we all had a bit of a rush of blood to the head, and we decided we were replacing the carpet as well. Given that we're going to having cleared the room, we might as well take advantage. So if I can then finally, I think for Christmas I'm going to get rid of those ugly pink drapes, and I might actually have a nice sitting room for the first time in 8 years, and I'm a bit excited about that. So that's what I'm up to. I'd love to hear what you guys are up to, and let me show you what I'm going to be reading when I finished this. This is the last book I have in my pile here. It's called Hild by Nicola Griffith. I really don't know anything at all about this, except I was stalking Neil Stevenson, which is just, one of the things I do when I have a spare moment. And one interview that he was doing when he was doing his Seven Eves tour, somebody asked him if he'd read any good books lately, and this is the one that he said that he'd really enjoyed. So I went and they had it at my library, and I thought, that's a bit exciting. I've never heard of it, but I'm going to give it a good old try once I've got rid of Mao's Dancer. I hope you're all well, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!